You're listening to Picture Lock, where we focus on film. My next guest is first and foremost a storyteller, but he also happens to be an award-winning, published, screened, and broadcasted Washington, D.C. area-based director, photographer, and writer. Joe has worked with or photographed for such brands as NASA, U2's Bono, Under Armour, the Beach Boys, Intel, the National Guard, Awesome Con, and Disney, ABC, to name a few. Through his company, Astray Productions, he produces films, commercials, podcasts, comic books, music, and editorial portrait expose photography. All these under the umbrella of character-driven storytelling. He knows his own bio. Joe Carabeo, welcome to Picture Lock.
That was one of the first things that I had to learn to do once I graduated from film school was have the guts to talk about yourself. You know what I mean?
Right.
I like that he said, did you say Bono?
Yeah, I said it improperly on purpose. I figured, I was like, let's see if he's paying attention. I saw you kind of smiling.
You know what's funny is that when I was given that job to document Bono and to, pretty much be with them, and I do documentary stuff a lot too, and to photograph and to do all that stuff. I told everyone else that, and the biggest joke was I'm not a big U2 fan at all. I was like the last person I wanted to go would be the biggest star that I've ever encountered.
Wow.
They're like, in the back of my head, I was like, anyone but Bono, and then right. Bono. Not saying he's a bad person, but just my own musical choices.
That's okay. But sometimes you just got to put on that professional cap and
you
do it. All right. So I find it funny and interesting that in all my years of doing this show, I haven't had you on yet. Like what in the world?
Well, it happens, man. Sometimes when you're, because we've known each other for a while.
Right.
And sometimes I feel like, do I want to play that card now? Do we need to play that card now? You know what I mean? You want to, you want to keep it outside the family because it's you want to expand. But now I feel like, hey, we got to make this happen.
Exactly. So I appreciate you coming on. First question I always start with is, when did you first fall in love with film?
Filmmaking, or actually just film in general, just
film,
like movies.
In general, movies, and then of course it came. You're a filmmaker now.
What it's amazing because I never actually fell in love with any one of the processes.
Get out of here.
It's almost been a process of elimination. Growing up, I've always the first job that I ever wanted to do was to be an architect, and so I was like, what do I need to be an architect? And I don't even know why I wanted to be an architect. There's drawings on in my parents' house of me drawing buildings from a kid. There's you can see oh, I always wanted to be an architect. And then for some reason that went away, and I thought the cooler job was to be a comic book artist. And so I tried real hard to do that. Even through high school and elementary school, I was drawing. I was doing all the art classes and stuff like that. And you know how the world is. Sometimes after that, you're like, I'm not good enough to do this. And then For some reason after that, I was like, well, what's easier than drawing? Because drawing to me was still very difficult. Or difficult as in I enjoyed it, but it was not as good as the masters. And if I'm not as good as the masters, then I'm not. There's no way I can play that. That's how I thought back then.
Right.
Then I was like, let me get into photography, and then then photography was cool. I really enjoyed that. And then essentially I was like, is there anything more than just taking a photo? I loved it. People kept on saying I had the eye for it, but I felt like I wanted, you wanted more. I wanted to tell, because with comic books, I'm telling a story. And it's like, how can I tell a story with just one photo? I tried real hard. And I back then in high school, just my mindset was not really on school. Then the truth is I saw a TV show, and it's called Dawson's Creek, about a filmmaker. If we're gonna be real, we're gonna make it real. Make it real. I saw that, and I was like, maybe that's a possibility. I can be a filmmaker, because we all know Dawson. He's a filmmaker,
right?
And at that point, I thought it was unbelievable to actually be a filmmaker. I don't know why I never thought oh, why don't I just be a filmmaker? Oh, there's photography in that, and that idea went into my head, and so I started doing small projects through that. And really what happened, I had the idea, I'm gonna break the character wall right now. You're gonna get the exclusive line that I haven't told in anything else.
Oh wow.
But I did backyard wrestling. in high school. We went on the news. I'm a massive pro wrestling fan, and of course, I wanted to be a pro wrestler as well.
What?
So I teamed up with a guy like an international pro wrestler superstar right now. His name goes by the name of Sanjay Dutt. We were doing backyard wrestling together with our own federation, and I was still wanting to be a filmmaker. So of course, I was the guy that was filming it and wrestling at the same time. And what's really interesting is that me and, his name is Sanjay Dutt now, we would conceptualize ideas and really pretty much make it into like a cinematic experience. And, hopefully I embarrass him now, but he was into Dawson's Creek. So we would always reference these things about we would talk about like, did you watch that episode yesterday? Last night? Yeah, it was great. All right, how can we get that type of drama into the story we're doing? And so, but that was my first foray into like filming and producing anything, was actually like backyard wrestling and seeing that with Dawson's Creek, because it wasn't like the big productions. It was like him and his friends just making movies. I was like, that's what we're doing with backyard wrestling.
Right.
And so I fell in love with, doing that process, the whole process of creating something through that. And then after high school, we were on the news a couple times, we just had to make a decision. It's like, did I want to be a pro wrestler or did I want to do film production? So I decided to do film production and make movies, and he decided to be a pro wrestler, and he is now 10 times, a million times more famous than me. But I'm not about fame though.
Right. That's amazing. This is Picture Lock. I'm your host, Kevin Sampson. My guest is Joe Carabeo, who fell in love with filmmaking after watching Dawson's Creek
and pro wrestling.
and pro wrestling. All right, so I took a look at your reel last night, and you've got some really impressive stuff under your belt. Between commercial work, narrative film, docs, live events, you got a great reel. But even in the reel, I noticed that you tell a story while putting your reel together and showing your experience. So what I wanted to ask is, what is it about storytelling that you're drawn to, and why do you think it's important that you tell great stories in your work?
I feel like if you're not telling a story, you're not saying anything. And if you're not saying anything, at least to me, you're just sort of, it's, cool for the sake of being cool. And I mean, and that's cool and all, that's great. But my motivations have always been what's going to last, when I'm gone, what's going to connect with people, when they don't know who I am. I feel like the work is going to stand, and hopefully that's something. A good story will always be timeless. And I've always been afraid of being erased. I've always been afraid of not being able to make some sort of impact. I've always felt like I need to make some sort of impression, and a great story does make an impression. Like, to me, I really love the fact of, I first actually fell in love with movies, or realized how amazing movies can be, when I watched when I watched, what's it called? The Apartment in college. That was, have you seen The Apartment? Billy Wilder's Apartment? I saw that. And, when you're watching movies like, the black and white classic movies, you think they have like a little softness to them. But when I saw Billy Wilder's Apartment, I realized films don't have to follow through that same genre. You can change things up.
Right.
And, I fell in love with the story, and character is key. So even with my photography, I can't just go in and be like, now we're doing a fashion shoot. Just stand there and look pretty and wear this dress. I'm like, okay, I need to give you some sort of motivation. I need you to develop this character, or else I feel like we're not doing anything. And that, to me, that's the worst feeling ever, when you've done something and you haven't felt like you've accomplished or told a story. Yeah. So that's why it's really important.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you, and I think it really does come out in your work, and I'm not just saying that because we're friends, but I'm saying that because, when I look at it, I'm like, whoa, it's vivid, it's bold, and we'll talk about the photography in a little bit.
Well, even doing the reel, I had to, when I'm looking at it, I'm like, I need to, it's just supposed to be a sizzler reel or whatever. It's just supposed to be, hot stuff, whatever. I'm like, yeah, but is there any way I can we sequence it in a way that I'm telling some sort of arc?
Right.
And, that's always a challenge.
I think that was really interesting, though, because what I could see in that was the fact that you actually put some thought into your reel.
Yeah.
And so I know as somebody, if I was going to hire you, I'd be like, okay, well, this is a sizzle reel and it looks awesome, but then I can also tell that you put some thought into the reel. So to me, that's like 2 pluses. You know what I mean? Like, and that says a lot about your work. So I think that's awesome.
I hope people enjoy it. That's the main thing. I want people to feel like they can't turn it off. That's the hope.
Nice. All right. So there might be some listeners that are trying to make their way up the ladder, right? So just kind of cracking into the business. And that's one of the things with Picture Lock that I always want to do is kind of like, talk to people that really have experience in trying to shed some wisdom, give them some nuggets. So when working with clients for commercials, what's the most important thing that you think as a director that you should bring to the table for your client?
Like as a person that's bringing an idea to the client,
right,
or a person that's on the set?
I think both, right? So sometimes they might say, this is what we want you to do, and then you kind of got to do it. And you can kind of put your own vision towards it.
Yeah.
And then other times they say, hey, like, we're coming to you for this idea. And so when you come to the table, like what are some of the things that you try to think of? Obviously, like we just talked about, storytelling, telling a story.
Yeah.
But for those that like are trying to just kind of crack into the business, like what's some of those nuggets that you would give them that maybe you would have given yourself like 10 years ago?
Well, one of the main things I've come to realize, just working with clients and doing the differences between working commercially with clients and making your film or working on someone else's film is that when you're working with a client, the end goal is one that they're happy. And I think the director or the producer's job for that project is to make sure, is to make their dreams come true. So every idea I feel every idea that you pitch to them should be in support of, like, I don't know, name a comic, like a comic book store. It's like, all right, so what are you trying to do? Like, what is your goal in this commercial? And of course, the majority of the times, like, we want more viewers. We want people to come in. Okay, so, and then we really try to break that down. It's like, okay, so what's important about your show? What's the ordinary your show, but your store? What is great about this? What is great about your product that differentiates it? And then you try to exploit that in a creative way. But really, like, that's how I feel. Like, you have to get in their mindset and you got to make their product feel special. That should be the goal, as opposed to like, well, I just have this great idea for a shot. You can have that, but make sure it fits with what they're trying to say, the story that they're trying to say.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's hard for people to realize that, like, hey, we're working for them. Your job is to put them over, to make their product the best it possibly can. And I feel like once people realize that, I feel like it actually opens up the possibility of what you can do. Once you put the ego aside, or you can inject your ego and combine it with what they need is really the most important part. And being able to communicate it simply and exciting to them. And because I feel like if you're able to communicate with them and you can prove that you can, some people say I'm a go-getter. Some people say I'm a, like whatever, like I never sleep. I always reference myself as an executioner because like that's the goal. If you have, so many people have ideas, so many people have things that they want to do, but that's great. But at the end of the day, you need to execute them. So if you can't execute even the smallest idea, they're not going to believe in you. So if you can prove that you have an idea and you can execute it, I think that's really important.
Yeah, WERA 96.7. This is Picture Lock. I'm talking to the executioner. This is Joe Carabeo.
When I skateboarded back in elementary school, some skateboards had names. Like that, my skateboard was the executioner.
Nice. I think that's so funny because I talk to people all the time, and I'm like, it's always amazing how life, those little things, right, always come back like to now. And it's like, who knew that like you'd be riding around on the executioner skateboard and later like, looking at life kind of like that, like trying to execute as you do the filming.
Like life is really crazy like that. We can dig deep in a second, but I feel like I'm one of those guys that really thinks everything in your life means something. It really matters. Like, to me, when I had to understand who I am as a storyteller, I felt like I had to dig deep and to realize where I came from. Like I didn't understand before why I'd liked my style of storytelling, which is like mystery and like, noirish character built stuff like that, until I dug deep and I'm like, you know what? One of the first shows I ever really enjoyed was Batman the Animated Series. And that was film noir. classic Hollywood style storytelling.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then modernized. And I was like, that's pretty much what I do now.
Right.
You know, and I still follow that to this day.
Man, that's pretty crazy. And on top of that, I think depending on how long we run here with this episode, but I was talking with Ulysses Campbell about that Batman.
We've had him on on the Carolyn Joe Show podcast too. He's great. He did the voice on the AwesomeCon commercials for 2 years.
Okay,
Ulysses is awesome.
Nice. All right, so this seems like a good episode to merge the two together. All right, but let's talk about live events because that's something that I think I have maybe a little bit of experience with, but it seems like such a big daunting task.
Yeah.
Now we talked about Bono, right, and the Beach Boys, right?
Yeah.
So you did something for the Beach Boys, but that looked really awesome. It looked like a major concert.
It was actually that's actually a true testament of how crazy it is to work in the film industry.
Mm-hmm.
It was literally a random call. I believe I was watching something on TV. It might have been, I don't know. It doesn't even matter. But I get a call. And the producer is just like, "Hey, what are you doing for the next 3 weeks?" And when you get that type of call, that the next answer is like a
nothing.
It's like it's one of those situations like when I got the call to work to shoot with Bono, they didn't want to tell me until the end. They're like, "Well, how do you treat famous people? How are you around famous people?" And I literally just told them I don't really care. It's like we're all like I have just as big an ego as them. That's fine. Right. But I got a call about that. Like, so what are you doing for the next 3 weeks? We're gonna film a documentary. We're gonna follow a band that you might have heard of, and but you're gonna be gone for 3 weeks or so. Well, first you're gonna be gone for 5 days, then you're gone for 3 weeks.
Wow.
And I was like, that's a big life choice because at the same time, as a person that's working freelance and production, working everything, that's like, okay, I have stuff in those 3 weeks. I can't just go I feel like I'm a type of person, if you come to me first, I would like to fulfill that. I'm a man of my word. And but at the same time, I'm like, at that time, what are you doing for the next 3 weeks? I don't know. What's happening? So you tell me. You can't do it. It's always just push and pull. Uh-huh. And they're like, okay, I don't know how big you are with the music or anything, but we're going to be filming the 50th anniversary of the Beach Boys. And this is the first time that they've actually, all the living Beach Boy members are going to be touring together, since they all broke up at that point.
Yeah.
And me as a musician, I'm a massive Beach Boys fan. I love the Beach Boys. But I was like, yeah, I've heard of them. They're cool. And that's literally what it was. I was like, let me go check those dates, and boom, you're out. You're off and running. We went to like Jones Beach in New York. We went to Red Rock down in Denver. Went to Toledo. We basically we documented behind the scenes at the hotel, behind stage of the whole last American leg. So I was there to capture the last reunion of the Beach Boys on their last American leg tour. After that, they went to Europe, and then they broke back up again. Wow. So I felt really lucky to be part of that, but I'm not going to lie. That was a vicious and brutal shoot. If you like driving, then that would have been the shoot. But because in between that, we're driving like 18 hours.
Wow.
We're crossing borders. You know what I mean? We're like making sure, like, do you have your passport? Stuff like that. Yeah. Because when you're doing documentaries, you want to get that shot of them crossing the border. So we have to be before the band.
Right.
But I really describe it pretty much as my almost famous moment. Mm-hmm. Like, have you seen the movie Almost Famous? That's literally how it was to me. I actually brought that DVD with me to try to ground me. It's like, this is what's happening to you right now.
Right.
You're that dude, and you're getting taken away on this Beach Boys tour. Yeah. And that's literally what it was. The first day the second day, after the first shooting, they're like, okay, that's good. What are you doing? That's a scary line or a great line when the producer's like, so what are you doing at this time? You know what I mean? Right. It was literally like, hey, what are you doing in 3 days? We need to get over to the West Coast. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'm check my schedule. I guess I can make that clear. Yeah. All right, cool. We're gonna go and drive. We're gonna drive to Norfolk and then go to fly with the Beach Boys on their private jet. Wow. And I'm like, what? This is nuts. So as soon as I got there, you sit down and then you see like Brian Wilson and all these people are like, these guys are like musical. These are equivalent to like to me the Beatles and Elvis, you know. And then I got there, it just dawned on me. I was like, man, I'm touring with the Beach Boys on these major venues. And that's always been one of my dreams, is the tour. You know, just I love touring for some reason.
Yeah.
The chaos of all that. Yeah, so
quick question. With that, did you serve as like director? Did you have to coordinate different camera operators? Like, because you said it was a beast of tour, and obviously like hitting the road and stuff. But like, did you have to come up with the overall vision for what it's gonna look like?
In this project, I did not have to come up with the overall vision, because we're moving in documentary world.
Mm-hmm.
We're literally like, whatever they do, we gotta get.
Right.
So there was a cohesive style. And we were coordinating because each venue was also filmed. So we're coordinating with them. So there are several times where I'm on stage with the Beach Boys filming them, being like right in their face on like in Calgary. Like I'm on the stage, you know what I mean? On Red Rocks, I'm on the stage with them.
Right.
Yeah, so when we're doing that, we have it's almost like, you know, you're part of like the military. You're going in, we're like, okay, we need to go and we need to formulate a visual plan of coordinating with certain songs, and we know that certain moments are going to happen. And to me, one of my favorite shots is there's a silhouette shot in the Red Rock, in like the Red Rock venue, the massive like that's one of the most legendary venues ever. During I think it's going to be only God Only Knows, the song God Only Knows, like a slow, romantic, awesome song. But I got a silhouette shot, and you see the whole entire venue of Red Rocks holding up their cell phones.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm shooting that, I'm wondering if I'm even in this universe anymore, because I'm like, where am I ever going to see this ever again?
Right. Yeah.
But that was a tough shoot. It's a very tough shoot.
It's always awesome when you're as a filmmaker, when you get those moments, whether it's in the editing booth when it comes together, or like you said, like I'm sure like you're probably like holding back the tears, like because you're holding the camera, like I gotta get this right, but like, oh my gosh,
yeah, like this is the moment. Like, you know, when you're making a movie, when you're making any type of story, the goal is to create something hopefully that people haven't seen before.
Right.
And so when I saw that, I was like, I'm the one getting this. No one else is going to get this, like maybe ever. You know, so that was fun.
All right, so let's move into your photography. It's like I said earlier, it's vivid, it's bold, it pops off the screen. And we kind of talked about this, but like when it comes to your photography, how do you approach, you know, telling the story within the frame?
A lot of times it starts with the character. Who is this? Who is the character they're trying to do? And you know, my photography is a wide range, like because I'm from a documentary background, I can do documentary style event all the way up into like high fashion. Mm-hmm. When it comes to my personal work, it's really character based. Because once I start with the character, then I can figure out, okay, this is the character. What is the world we build around this character? How will this character react? It's very similar to when you're directing, you know, when you're directing someone, when you're directing an actress or an actor in a movie. Like, I actually go at it exactly in that same exact format. And I don't understand why that's not a way. That's, to me, one of my favorite photographers is Ellen von Unwerth. I've always cited her as being a massive influence because she does come from, one, she was a model, and then she breached and went across the line and started being a photographer. And it's just her ability to connect with the people and tell a story through wardrobe, through composition, through lighting, and all that. And then she throws in the documentary feel. Mm-hmm. So it's not like we're just this static image. It is, we are this, we're pretty much this energy of like, we're in the moment documenting this scene. So I like creating a scene and then having it still be like a photo moment, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. I think that's really cool though. That you put that, like I said in the beginning, putting the thought into it and making it more than just a picture.
Some people think I think too much into it. I remember someone saying like, I had a producer that was like, I like Joe. He likes to think about it.
Right, exactly. No, it's good. I mean, yeah, I'm sure there's times when people got to bring you back off the edge of the cliff.
Oh,
but
it's usually like my answer is always like, why?
Because
I want the camera here. Why?
All right, Joe. WERA 96.7. This is Picture Lock. I'm your host, Kevin Sampson. I'm talking with the executioner himself, Mr. Joe Carabeo. I'm not gonna let you live that down.
No, man, I'll live it up.
That's an awesome nickname.
You got to own it. That's what Kevin Smith says. No matter good or bad, own it.
Nice. All right, so I didn't realize this about you, I guess, when we first met, but you're big into comic books. Mm-hmm. You write a few. You have a few of your own. Let's talk about that.
Well, Curl Studio, a really great comic book brand that I completely believe in. Headed by Karen Bolevsky, who has a comic books, but also a comic strip called Curls. Let me clarify that. She has a comic strip called Curls. Comes out every Monday. I love working with Carolyn because, again, growing up, I wanted to be a comic book artist. I wanted to draw. But then when I saw her draw, I can never draw how Carolyn draws. She's the epitome of one of the fantastic cartoonists that you can't really emulate. And she has a great inspiration from Bruce Timm, Darwin Cook, to Chuck Jones. And, me coming from like a crime, dark world type of storytelling in comic books, I thought it'd be an interesting experiment to see what would happen if we combined forces. Mm-hmm. Like if my style of storytelling and her, her pretty much like it's like this Disney Warner Brothers combination that you've never even seen before. And it's like, let's make something. Let's see what happens when we do this. And what we created first was a book called Black Magic Tales. It was really like, it started as like an inside joke because whenever we see a black cat, we would call it like Black Magic. I don't even know where that came from. Do we know where that came from?
Carolyn is Carolyn. Yeah, she's
Carolyn pointed to herself, so it came from me. Nice. But that started, so what we did was we created two characters called Roxy and Dean Casanova and Roxy Monroe. And we wanted to tell, I'm a massive fan of Bonnie and Clyde and, of course, Natural Born Killers and crime. Mm-hmm. I like superheroes, but I like the villains more. But the thing is, though, like, those aren't easy stories to tell because you miss a little bit of the humanity sometimes. But I wanted to tell a story about what would happen if two friends decided to commit crimes to make the world happy. And I thought that would just be great. Huh. So basically we're writing inspirational tales about committing crimes and how they influence people to do good things. Does that make sense? That's right. Amazing though. But we're able, since like 2007, we've been pumping out these stories. These, like, to me, even if people haven't seen a lot of my work, like just as many films as you've seen, I've done just as many, like even 3 times more comics. Mm-hmm. We put them out in our own, Curl Studio is its own independent brand, independent label. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times, a lot of products you see that Curl Studios makes is made by our own hands or has gone through our process. So you get that, that homegrown touch. But the stories themselves, I am really proud of those stories, almost out of anything that I've ever created or written about in my whole entire life. Because what's great about when you make comics? You don't have to worry about a budget. You don't have to worry about, you don't have to worry about catering. You don't have to worry about if someone, if like your actor is not showing up on time or if they're not in the mood. Right. Or like all that stuff. It's really this personal one-on-one storytelling device. And I think that's quite amazing. It's really inspirational too.
Yeah. So real quick, like before we kind of wrap up in a little bit, if people want to check out your work for Curl Studio, where do they go?
It's great. We're covered on the social media. There's the Curl Studio Facebook page. Mm-hmm. There's also just the straight up Curl Studio website, curls-studio.com. You can also follow Carolyn anywhere at Karen Bolevsky on Tumblr. It's not the same. It's just Carolyn Bolevsky on Tumblr. Then on Instagram is the same, at Karen Bolevsky. Then on the same thing as Twitter. You can follow all those. Pretty much the shortest way I can see it, the most modern way I can tell you, it's just to Google Curl Studio.
Nice.
It's so easy too. You have a Google, it's just instantly an app on your phone, so you don't even have to type anything. Just type that in.
Right.
That used to sound pompous a couple of years ago, but now that's like such a go-to line.
Right. No, seriously, Google it real quick. Yeah. No, I understand. We've got AwesomeCon coming around the corner in the DC area. Tell us about your involvement with the convention and everything that you'll be doing there this year.
It's pretty insane. I've been part of the promotion and the creation of AwesomeCon since the beginning. I actually filmed the Kickstarter video before the first AwesomeCon to get the first AwesomeCon going. Wow. And then every single year after that, I've been hired by them to direct and produce their commercials. So every commercial you see on TV or on Instagram, I've directed with my awesome crew. And this year and like last year,
Hold on, sorry. For a second, I almost thought you said you're about to say with my awesomeness.
with my awesomeness, I executed with my awesomeness here.
The ego.
The
No,
ego.
no, but that was cool. That was cool.
I think it's okay to have an ego. An ego can take you out of depression. That's the key to depression. If someone's depressed, listen, inject some ego into them, and they'll
Right.
be okay. You know what I mean? But you still got to have some humbleness. I think that's really important.
There you go.
But
my bad.
every year we've done a bunch of panels together. A lot of times, last year I was a moderator on the Allison Mack panel and the not Kevin, but the Seth Rollins and Natalia, the WWE panel. And so I'm looking forward to whoever handled that. But I also have my own panels. This year I'm bringing back the Awesome Filmmakers panel. It's great. It's one of the best. It's probably the panel to go to for if you're going to a convention and you want to be a filmmaker. And like everyone I feel like wants to be a filmmaker somewhere. But you got to know the hardships. You got to know the true stories about how to do that. And every year at AwesomeCon, I have this panel called Awesome Filmmakers Making It Happen, because that's what we're doing. We're making the impossible happen. And I just took out impossible and used it. But this year we have a great lineup of producers. If you guys can go on YouTube, you can actually look up last year's panel and you can see how wild and true it is. It is so wild and true and honest that they gave us not a rated R, but it's a PG-13 rating this year.
Wow.
Because we were so honest.
Right,
That's how
right.
it was. We were so honest. But this year we have a great lineup of panelists. First, starting off, is this awesome guy named Kevin Sampson. Massive, great producer, entrepreneur of all great things. Have you heard of him?
I've heard of him. I wake up to him a couple times.
I'm actually really interested to see what he has to say, because people will be asking questions. I want to see the truth come out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, I appreciate you having me.
And we also have the president of the DC Web Fest, right? There's going to be Otessa Marie. You know how to pronounce it.
Godard. Yeah.
She's been on your show as well.
Exactly.
And we know everyone who's on your show is quality. So that's the way.
They are, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It's true.
You want high caliber people. That's actually how I think I found her, is through like who's on Picture Lock, who's on Picture Lock. And so with that, I also have the director of Try, as I call him Calvin, but Jay Jameson is going to be a panelist as well.
Nice.
The award-winning movie Try, the award-winning feature film that I did the creative supervising on.
Wow. Man, this is like an all-star
This
lineup.
is. And we also have another award-winning great director of photography, cinematographer, Kunitaro Oe, and he was actually the guy that gave us that rating from last year because he was so honest and true.
Was he the one on the far end?
No, he was the one in the center.
Okay.
But he's great. He is really honest. And if there's ever a guy that needs to tell you the truth about how to run a production, it is Cooney. And then we also have his cohort, because Cooney just worked on a film called Assassinat that he was the director of photography on, and I saw a rough cut, and I'm like, that movie's freaking, it's strange and amazing. You need those combinations. It can be strange, but sometimes not always amazing. But this is strange and amazing.
Right.
And Drew Bolduc is going to be there to also be on the panel, and he's also a great guy. I had a film festival in RVA in Richmond called Project Resolution, and it was a monthly film festival. Everyone would bring their own films, and we would critique it, and we would tell them how it is. But it's also a real film festival, and he was showing his films constantly, and he always had these out of this world work, and they were always strange and amazing. But to see him also make feature films at this level, it's that guy again, ground up and making this stuff. Stuff you will not see anywhere else.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's going to be a great lineup, I swear. You guys see that? It's going to be on June 4th. AwesomeCon's June 4th, the Saturday. And the Saturdays are the wildest days. And we are in like the main event slot. So it is going to be in room 149, 8:15 to 9:15 or whatever. They'll have to kick us out.
Yeah. Awesome. June 4th. Don't want to miss it. AwesomeCon. What else you got on the docket?
For my films?
Yeah.
Well,
is there anything else that you're doing at AwesomeCon? I thought you said
at AwesomeCon, I have a whole bunch of stuff. One of these things, I'm not sure. Should I reveal this, Carolyn? Should I reveal?
Picture Lock exclusive.
Another exclusive.
You heard it here first.
Another exclusive. See, Carolyn and Joe show, we have our own panel, live panel, just like a panel, but just like a podcast, but live in front of an audience there every single year at AwesomeCon. They have, we've worked together with AwesomeCon to give us surprise guests. And that's always been a thing now. It's like, who do they have on this year? Who do they have on this year? Last year we had, our first year we had people from The Walking Dead. It worked out great.
Nice.
So the second year, instead of having one from Walking Dead, we had 3.
What?
And then the third year, at Awesome Con, we're like, let's take it up a notch. Legendary show, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. We had someone from that.
Wow.
Amber Benson, great. Look her up. She was another real person. Real. I think that might have gotten a rated R rating, but it wasn't us. She was great. But this year, we got another guest. We can't even name what one single show that people have not heard of. Have you seen Pulp Fiction? He was in Pulp Fiction. Have you know Pee Wee Herman? He's worked with Pee Wee Herman on the live stage show. You've heard his voice all over like the Justice League Unlimited and all a great voice actor. So this year on exclusively for you, Mr. Kevin Sampson.
You don't have to. We could
after this break. No, don't do that. Right. No, we're gonna let people know.
Okay,
if I get a head nod from Carolyn. Was that a head nod?
We got a head
nod. All right. Phil Lamar is going to be our guest on the Carolyn and Joe show at Awesome Con. Yes.
That's dope.
He's huge, and he's also a really super nice guy. And we look forward to it because at the end of the day, when we do our show, we don't know what's going to happen.
Nice.
So the legendary voice actor Phil Lamar will be on the Carolyn and Joe show live podcast. Go there, you can ask us questions, but it's going to be wild and fun.
That is so amazing.
And that's happening Friday, June 3rd, 6 p.m., room 152.
WERA 96.7. You're listening to Picture Lock. I'm your host, Kevin Sampson, and right now I'm talking to the executioner, Joe Carabeo, and he just gave us an exclusive.
Drop the bomb!
As to what we can expect to see and hear at Awesome Con. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys giving us that exclusive. That's awesome. All right, so let's kind of wrap this thing up here, Joe. It's been fun, man. You got to come back on.
I love this.
Like we could. The only reason I'm stopping is because
we have to.
Yeah, like the radio show. I only got 52 minutes.
Yeah.
But how can people contact you, view your work, all that good stuff?
Quite simple. JoeCarabeo.com. You'll get on the main page. You'll see a link to the podcast. You'll see a link to my Instagram, to my Facebook, to my band Monday Mistress. You'll see all that stuff. So simply JoeCarabeo.com. Best way. You can even contact me through that page as well.
Awesome, man. Joe, thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been fun.
Having me. Thank you for having me. This is an awesome thing that you're doing here. I think everything you're doing here is great, and keep on going.
I appreciate it.